Ukrainian units appear to be intensifying offensive activity across the Dnieper River, called the Dnipro in Ukrainian, as Kyiv's troops look to cement and build out their foothold on the left, or eastern, bank of the waterway that has served as a formidable front line for almost 1 year. Reports emerged this week among pro-war Russian military bloggers of fresh Ukrainian assaults on the left bank, with reconnaissance and sabotage groups allegedly advancing more than 1 mile inland and initially overwhelming Russian defenses in the area. The Institute for the Study of War's Thursday evening update said there was continued discussion among Russian sources of larger-than-usual Ukrainian ground operations on the east-left bank of Kherson Oblast on October 19. Ukrainian forces, the US-based independent think tank added, likely maintain a limited presence in some east bank areas near the Dnipro River shoreline and the Antonivsky Railway Bridge. Newsweek is unable to independently verify the reports and has contacted the Russian Defense Ministry by email to request comment. The initial reports of intensified Ukrainian operations on the left bank came from the Rybar Telegram channel, one of the largest pro-war milblogger accounts run by Mikhail Zavinchuk, who once served in the Spetsnaz GRU and later in the Defense Ministry's press service. On Thursday, Zavinchuk said that enemy saboteurs landed and attacked Krinky, a village on the left bank of the Dnieper around 10 miles southwest of Novokakhovka. They were able to gain a foothold in the village and advance all the way to the road, but after artillery and air strikes they were driven out to the northern outskirts of the village, Zavinchuk wrote. Ukrainian troops, he added, were pushed back but retained control of houses on the outskirts of the village, just over a mile inland of the river. Kyiv's forces appear to be waiting for reinforcements to arrive, the ISW wrote. The think tank cited a second milblogger who said Ukrainian forces used more manpower in the attacks towards Krinky than in previous attacks. Ukrainian units are also reported to be on the attack to the south, in the area around the village of Pishchanivka, some 10 miles northeast of Kherson on the left bank of the river. There, the head of the Kherson Occupation Administration Vladimir Saldo said that Ukrainian troops were confined to the area under the Antonivsky Railway Bridge and subject to heavy artillery and aerial bombardment. The Ukrainian military, the ISW notably tacitly acknowledged Ukrainian operations on the east bank and reported on October 19 that Russian airstrikes hit Pishchanivka, implying Ukrainian forces were operating in the town. Ukrainian forces have been launching periodic, small-scale raids across the Dnieper since retaking the west bank of the river last fall. But the wide, fast-flowing waterway has proved a formidable obstacle to further advances, as have months of defensive preparations for Russian troops on the opposing bank. The situation was further complicated by the destruction in June of the Novokakhovka Dam, with the subsequent downstream deluge swelling the river and causing severe flooding in the Kherson region. Still, Kyiv has maintained a steady operational tempo in recent months, keeping Russian forces pinned in the southern Kherson region, while Ukraine pushes its grinding counteroffensive further west in Zaporizhia and Donetsk oblasts. The ISW said that Ukraine is growing its left bank foothold. While Russian sources continue to offer slightly diverging claims about the scale of the Ukrainian attacks on the east bank, ISW continues to assess that current Ukrainian actions appear to be larger than previously observed tactical raids, and available geolocated footage indicates that Ukrainian forces maintain a presence along the shoreline and near the Antonivsky Railway Bridge despite Russian counterattacks. New combat footage shared by Ukraine's military on Friday captures what it says is the destruction of Russian tanks and armor, highlighting the increasing toll of Moscow's new assaults in the east. Ukraine's Special Operations Forces SSO said it detected Russian armor heading toward Avdiivka, a small city in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region that's currently surrounded on three sides by Russian-occupied territory. It's one area where Moscow's forces recently launched a renewed offensive, according to U.S. officials. The SSO said it used a combination of first-person view FPV drones, U.S.-provided Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, and mortars to stop the advancing Russians and destroyed 4 armored personnel carriers, 2 tanks, and an unspecified number of soldiers. Insider was unable to immediately verify the details of the video or Moscow's troop and equipment losses. In a video of the fierce fighting, which the SSO posted to Telegram and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Several explosions can be seen around the apparent Russian armor force as it attempts to maneuver through open fields. At one point, an armored vehicle appears to bump into another and nudge it forward before they are both engulfed in a fireball. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby told reporters on October 13 that over the previous few days Russia had launched a renewed offensive in eastern Ukraine, including around Avdiivka and Lyman, a city just under 100 miles to the north. He said that the move was not a surprise, given that Russian President Vladimir Putin has not given up on his ultimate goal of conquering Ukrainian territory. Kirby said at that time that amid Russia's offensive, its military appeared to again be using human wave tactics, sending poorly trained and equipped soldiers straight onto the battlefield without preparation. This gruesome strategy is not new to Moscow. It relied heavily on this method during the brutal fighting that took place this past winter. Russia continues to show no regard for the lives of its own soldiers, willingly sacrificing them in pursuit of Putin's goals, while Ukraine continues to fight bravely, effectively, and smartly, Kirby said. And I would add that we have seen the Ukrainians work very hard to repel these offensive maneuvers, and they appear to have done just that. Experts at the Institute for the Study of War, a Washington-based think tank, wrote in a Thursday analysis that Russia lost dozens of tanks and armored vehicles during the initial days of its assault around Avdiivka. The experts also cited a Ukrainian military official who reported several Russian aircraft losses and said that the official's announcement suggests that Moscow is paying a high cost to prop up its fight around Avdiivka. Continued materiel losses will likely continue to slow down the Russian pace of advance in the area, these experts wrote. Ukraine's SSO said Friday on Telegram that while Russia is engaged in offensive actions around Avdiivka and is relentless in its attempts to surround the city, Kyiv has managed to firmly defend the area and inflict considerable losses on Moscow's forces, which includes the recent destruction of armor. I am grateful to all our guys who are holding their ground and destroying the occupier day after day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said of Avdiivka and other efforts in a Friday statement. These days, Russian losses are really impressive, and it is exactly the kind of losses of the occupier that Ukraine needs. Meanwhile, in the southern direction, Ukraine unveiled its new arsenal of MGM-140 Army tactical missile systems, or ATACMS, that it secretly received from the U.S. Kyiv's forces used the long-awaited ATACMS to strike two Russian airbases earlier this week and destroy several helicopters, publicly revealing the deadly long-range missiles in impressive fashion. Western intelligence later suggested that beyond the short-term victory for Ukraine, the attack may inflict lasting damage on Russia's air power and force Moscow to pull its key bases and logistics hub back from the front lines. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on October 20 that Russia had lost 292,060 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on Feb. 24, 2022. This number includes 1,380 casualties Russian forces suffered just over the past day.